For the Young at Heart is sponsored by Duville Life and Wellness Community, a commitment to care, a legacy of compassion. This is Duville.
Hello, welcome to For the Young at Heart. I'm Lucille Jerome. And on today's program, we're going to be taking a look at something that some seniors might want to do in retirement. Obviously, they want to spend more time with family and friends, maybe take some avocational courses, maybe vacation a little bit more and travel. But for some, there's an additional interest, maybe returning or going to college for a degree. And I have two guests with me. I have Lauren Ellis, who is the Program Manager for Community Education and Training at Middlesex Community College. And I also have Daniel Richer, who is the Director of Recruitment and Admissions at Northern Essex Community College. I'm so glad you were able to come today. This has been on my mind for a while. We had done a program last year, but it was strictly avocational, just for interests. And this came up, so we're doing it now. First of all, what got the two of you into this particular field?
Sure. So I have been working in education for, my goodness, over 20 years now. I was an RA when I was in college. So I was a resident assistant, kind of like a mother hen on the floor. And that's what got me started. I loved it because there was a programming aspect to it. There was also mediation, conflicts, but even better is seeing someone brand new come in and then seeing them finish and actually blossom into a different person. So that's what got me kind of hooked with education, and I've been in it ever since. So.
Okay, all right. What about you, Dan?
I had a slightly different path into education, actually. I graduated from Providence College in Rhode Island, and I loved my college experience. It was transformative, it was wonderful, and during my senior year, as I was getting ready to graduate, I kind of stumbled upon a job posting in their admission office. Believe it or not, I had no aspirations to join education, but as an entry-level admission counselor, I was able to travel around and talk to students about going to college and getting a degree. That was in 2001, and 17 years later, I'm still doing it.
There you are. Okay, and older adults, senior citizens returning to college or starting a program. Maybe they had a dream and life gets in the way sometimes. They can't go or they can't finish, right? So let's talk a little bit about what's available to senior citizens.
Sure. I'll start. I think there's two ways that you can look at it, and I say two ways because one of the areas I work with is a Miles program. So I think that for a senior citizen, and I hate to use the term senior, but
I know.
Someone who's an older adult looking to go back to school, if they're not ready for that full-fledged credit course, they can take advantage of classes that will just intellectually stimulate them, give them a social aspect.
So that's like getting the foot in the door.
Exactly. So for instance, technology. We know that technology is not always easy and it's always changing. So that could be a good class. Let me take an intro class to computers and let me learn about different smartphones and capabilities versus let's get on the credit side and maybe it's reinventing themselves or finishing where they left off. Middlesex has a great, I think, tuition advantage that many seniors can have access to. So, and again, I loosely define senior, but if you're 60 and older, you can take a 3-credit course for $50 and a 4-credit course for $65, which is great because most classes are a price per credit.
Age 60 and over?
Yes, that's for age 60 and over. So 3 credit, $50, and 4 credit, $65, versus the traditional close to $600 for like $198 something per credit. So it's a good way to get their feet back into
into education.
It really is.
Okay. And then they can apply to an actual program?
Oh, most
It's not-
definitely.
Most definitely.
Mhm.
Okay.
It could be a certificate, which could be anywhere from 6 months to a year, or a full associate degree if that's what their goals are.
Okay.
And that could be about 2 years.
Suppose they, all right, here's a suppose. Suppose they do this. They have their feet wet, they've gone through, now they have an associate's degree, and they say, this isn't enough for me. I think I want to go on for a bachelor's degree. Are those classes transferable so that they can go on for fourth? Okay.
And that's usually where they might talk to somebody like me in the admission
Okay.
office or potentially an academic advisor.
All
And to be honest with you, some of the adult learners, those are the favorite students that I work with, because oftentimes they have a clearer idea of what they want to study. It's for personal enrichment, or maybe in some cases it's for a career. I think there's an assumption that college is for traditional age students right out of
Yes.
high school.
Yes.
And that's certainly not always the case, certainly not at schools like Middlesex and Northern Essex.
Yeah.
All right, all right. Is there like a percentage that you see over time with older, I'm going to call us older adults instead of senior
Yes, I
citizens,
like that
okay?
term, 'cause I hate to say
We're gonna
senior.
We're going to call us older adults, because I'm one of them. Is there a trend where you see more older adults going back? Maybe there's a change in society or family structure or family interest or job, and they want to do this? Is there a trend where you're seeing more or the same or less?
Well, I think a couple of things. Certainly as industries change and as the economy changes, that I think necessarily changes the employment landscape. So for some adults who are still in the workforce, they may be looking to either gain some skills to advance in their career that they have, or potentially to try something new. But what I do see quite a bit is as we look at our graduation ceremony and the variety and diversity of people that walk across the stage.
Oh, okay.
We have teenagers that walk across the stage and graduate, and one of my favorite stories is 2 years ago we had a grandmother aged 77 years old who walked across the stage and got her first college degree.
Her
That's
first
great.
degree.
Wonderful.
Can we talk a little bit about that? You don't have to say names. I understand confidentiality, but could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Absolutely. She was a woman who I think, if I understand correctly, had started college probably in her teens, right after high school. And for any number of reasons, it could be to start a family or to enter the workforce, she wasn't able to complete that degree. But it was something that was always in the back of her mind.
Yes.
So after she retired from her career and her work life, she started to go back to school and just slowly chip away at it. She would take one class or maybe two classes a semester
Okay.
while she was balancing grandchildren and a social life and some of the other things that she was doing. And before long, she had accumulated enough credits to earn an associate's degree.
Okay. So that's another thing they can do. They can take one course and then maybe take another course next semester. It's not like they have to necessarily go into a full-time program right off the bat.
Oh, no, they could definitely
good.
be part-time. And I think just to kind of echo your sentiments, I think students don't realize when you have a classroom of varying ages, oftentimes you look to the older adults because they've got a lot to actually share, and they're teaching the younger youth that are in the class just the same. And I know they may not think that, but I teach part-time too, and I see it in the
Okay.
classroom, and a lot of times it's, I'd love to hear your opinion. It's not always young and trendy. Sometimes we need to hear, you know, from all different ages, not just one demographic.
So there's a give and take in the
Oh.
classrooms, because I know older adults feel a little reserved, maybe, or shy, or wondering, am I going to fit in? Will I fit in? I mean, they go, I'm older than they are. What does that mean?
Famous last words. And I'll defer to you because I did admissions for 7 years, and that was a lot of times the first comment. Am I going to be the only one my age in the
Yes,
class?
yes.
And not at all. So I'll let you share
There you
that
go.
a little bit more
Okay.
too.
I can certainly appreciate how an individual might feel that way, but I think it's actually just the opposite. I feel like when somebody's able to bring in their work experiences, their life experiences, and apply that to the material that's being discussed in whatever class they're taking, makes a tremendous difference because it's no longer learning in a vacuum,
Right.
and we're able to take that with us wherever we go. So there's no doubt that the older adult learners have a tremendous positive impact on the classroom.
So if they're hesitating, it's some old ideas they have not really what's going on in the real world right now. That in fact there is room for them, they have something to offer, and everyone's going to learn from them and from the young. It's going to be a partnership in a way between the
Absolutely.
younger and the older.
And it's okay to be nervous because
Yeah, yeah.
everyone's going to have
Yeah,
that
sure,
nervousness, you know,
sure,
initially.
sure.
But
But that's the normal nervousness.
exactly, yep.
Okay.
Not
Is
just
there
you
such
or
a-
you or
Exactly. Okay, the normal range.
And I think this is an important conversation for the institutions that we represent because we're community colleges.
Right.
Our purpose is to educate the entire community, not just people right out of high school, not
Exactly.
just young adults, not just, it's anybody that's in our community is going to be able to come to our campuses and get that education that they want.
I'm wondering if someone's watching is thinking, I think I'm going to contact these people.
We certainly hope so, yeah.
One thing I'll say,
Probably will.
we have a lot of support services, you know,
Okay,
at the
that's a good-
community college
okay.
level too. So if someone's nervous about that first test, or how do I take notes if I haven't taken notes in a while,
Yes.
we've got academic advising, academic tutoring and support, academic advisors where you can have a one-on-one meeting, and you know things will get put in place to make sure you're successful, because that's the goal. It's the community and it's student success.
Okay, so there's a support system built in to the experience.
And I think institutions like ours really do a wonderful job of
Yes.
providing those
Right.
types of resources and opportunities.
Right.
We want students and the community to enroll and take advantage of what we have to offer, but we want them to do well too. And I think that's why we have so many dedicated professionals that are going to help students of any age.
You believe in what you're doing. Well, that's evident
Yes.
with the two of you. You believe in what you're doing. Right.
Absolutely.
Do they have to take some entrance exams, like SATs or anything like that?
Not the SAT,
Nope.
but when a student applies, we do have them take an assessment, which is no other reason other than to find out what level they are in reading
Okay.
and in math. Although for some students who have previous college coursework, or in some cases other previous college degrees, they may be exempt from taking that assessment test.
And I think it's important that even though it's a test, it's by no means pass or fail. It's just like what he said, it just assesses us. Are you ready to do calculus, or do you want to start out maybe at statistics or algebra? It just gives us a landing so we know what path to kind of steer you on with courses.
It might be important for them to take a subject of interest first before a calculus, maybe. I did a gulp.
Which would be my route, yes. Someone who's not a fan of math all the time.
And that's actually my advice for any student
Okay.
is study what you love.
Yes.
Study what you love. That's the whole purpose of education.
Yes.
A lot of what we do is to help people further their careers and advance in their careers, but I think as equal importance to that is to provide an education in areas that people are interested in.
Yeah, definitely.
What are some of the main, well, we've talked a little bit about it, but what are some of the main questions that older adults bring in? Like, do they come in with a list, like they're so concerned purposely that maybe that they come in with a list to, please, can you help me with this, with this, with this? Or do you already have that in your minds with your experience, and you already have answers before they even ask the questions?
I think there's some standard, questions and things like that you'll always get no matter what. But if I think back at my time in admissions, I think a question that would always come up is time. How long will it take me to complete, or how quickly can I get through? And then books. Books was always something that came up to, where do I buy the book? Is it a packet that I get, but bookstore can I go to? Do I have to go to your bookstore? So I think for me, those are probably the two main ones that I would get
Okay.
more often than not.
More often.
We see a lot of what I would call the nuts and bolts questions. Stuff like, I've been out of school for a long time. I'm not sure how to take that first step. So for us, a lot of it is helping students get into the college in the first place, how to fill out the application, what is that assessment like, where do I even go to apply. Stuff like that is something that we're very versed in and ready to help at a moment's notice.
Right.
But I also think a lot of our adult learners will ask questions about kind of the campus culture and how they may fit in. Because maybe they are slightly self-conscious about entering a classroom if it's been a little while since they've been in one. And I think part of our job is to to tell all students that they can do this,
Right, that they
That-
can do this.
that they can do this and there's a
Right.
place for them.
Well, you know, when you think about it, the age group we're talking, some of them may not have been in college or any school setting for 40 or more years. There's been a lot of change. We talked about this earlier. There's been a lot of changes in technology since then. Just for one thing, the technology has changed.
Certainly the case, and it's changed a
Yeah.
lot. But again, that's why
Yes.
the colleges have changed as well, and we have staff and
Yeah.
personnel on campus to
Okay.
assist.
Now, you mentioned if you're 6-year-old, maybe the cost is lower.
Yes.
What about college fees or things like book costs for books? Is there some help with that too? Because I remember books being expensive, and this was way back.
So, and I'll defer to you too, but I mean, anyone can apply for financial aid.
Okay.
Financial aid is a process where you can get money that comes, state money, could be federal money, and some of it can go directly towards books. There's also
Okay.
different scholarships that you could also apply to that vary, I would think, institution by institution.
So scholarships were available when I was younger. There's still scholarships available regardless of your age.
Yes,
Correct.
a lot of them
Okay.
are based on what you're studying too.
Right,
I mean, we have a
right.
number of scholarships, which I'm sure you can speak to as well. It could be education, or it
Sure.
could be because you live in a particular city or town.
Right.
So there's lots of different scholarships
Okay.
based upon what you're
Okay.
looking to study.
So that's another way that you can help an older student to navigate that. Younger students might know some of that, but the older students probably will not.
And
Okay.
we have staff on campus who specialize in financial aid
Oh,
and
definitely.
helping this education that students are pursuing become affordable.
I remember when non-traditional student was about 30 because it was high school then college. So if you had a lapse of years in between, about 30 years old, you were considered a non-traditional student. But now we're talking about the population that's older saying, you know, I have that dream, didn't fulfill it, I want to try it again. You know?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. We're never too old to learn. I really believe this.
Oh, I believe it
I
too.
believe it. Okay, I believe that. What are some of the other practical issues? Are there some, oh, wait a second, before we even go there. We already talked about entrance exams. They really aren't in the way that people remember for this age group. Okay. Do they get credit for life experiences?
In many cases,
Yeah.
we will, absolutely. We have, for example, a criminal justice program, and within our criminal justice program, oftentimes people that have graduated from police academies or correctional academies might be able to get some
Yep,
credit for those.
firefighters.
Same with the military as well.
Oh yeah, military, very much so, yes.
So there's certainly credits can be earned there. And then at Northern Essex, we have a few courses that are called competency-based. So for example, if somebody happens to be a talented artist or very good at computers, they may be able to kind of accelerate through the work that they already know to get to the material that they will really start to learn and appreciate and grow from. So I think there's a couple of ways and a couple of different modules where students can pursue their degree and earn that degree slightly faster.
Then, okay. Years ago, and I'm going back many years ago, it used to be called CLEP. You could clip out of a class.
Oh, there's still
They
still
still do
CLEP.
things like that?
There's still AP credit,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
credit for prior learning is what we do similar to
Right, right,
Northern
right.
Essex, and it's the same thing. You can take an assessment to see what type of coursework you can get. So there's a couple of options we did forget, I think, initially.
Well, okay. So basically what you're saying is where there's a will, there's a way for an older adult to return. Or to
Absolutely.
start a program. Either way, to start a program too.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about that.
Every door should be open in that space, in my mind. There should be no door that is closed to anyone that wants to come back to further education, start
Okay,
education,
yeah.
pick up where they left off.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll say once again, that's our mission.
Yeah,
And that is
At
the
the
mission.
community college, that's why we were created and that's why we exist today.
All right then. So, okay, we're covering a lot of territory here. We are covering a lot of territory. So there's credit for life experiences one way or another. There's testing one way or another, but nothing to worry about. There's always someone at the college to help with that process of entering and remaining. And remaining too. Is there a dropout rate for an older student that's different for a younger student, or is that immaterial?
Oh, I wouldn't even have those numbers, but
We would be able to look up the data on that, but I would suspect, and this is my opinion more so than fact, that the adult learners would probably have a higher persistence rate. And I think that's probably for a number of reasons. Probably because they
Yeah.
have an idea of what they want to study. They kind of have a goal in mind. Also, in the case of individuals who may be retired and no longer working, they may have more time to devote to their classes.
Right.
It's an interesting question that we could probably look up relatively easily.
But you're making a lot of sense, actually, because there's time available to then pursue it at their own pace.
At their pace.
At their own pace. That's another variable, at their own pace. All right? So they're bringing some maturity, they're bringing motivation, some diligence, some wish fulfillment, right?
All of those things
all
help a
the
student
above,
get to
yeah,
that
commitment,
degree. Yeah,
Okay.
the commitment
The
that it
commitment.
takes.
Commitment. All right, then. So there's really nothing for them to be afraid of, is there?
Not at
Really? I mean, really, when you stop to think about it.
Well, I think for many,
I mean, easier said than done, of course.
Of
course,
course,
yes,
of
absolutely.
course,
But yes.
of course. But with people like you, and I'm sure in every college there are people like you.
Oh, of course.
That they really can take that first baby step. Think about it that way.
for a student who's been out of a classroom setting for a number of years, taking that one class, as you mentioned, to start off with, I think can be a great confidence builder.
Yeah.
And then they can see, you know what? Yeah, this is something that I really can do. And then once they see all the available classes that we offer at our institutions and how many things are really very interesting that they can pursue, whether it's to learn a language or to,
Yes.
there's any number of things. We offer 60 different programs to choose
60?
from.
I know. I think
60.
Wow.
we have about 70 different.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, between associate degrees and certificates. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
The good thing is we have wonderful career counselors that can also help and
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
you know, walk through this assessment, and
Right.
that can tell you where your skills kind of match a certain field. So even if you really don't have any idea, you know, we'll help you get there too.
Right.
So
So you told me about the 77-year-old who got the degree. Do you have any other stories? Because I'm interested in the stories too. You have wonderful stories in your own life, but I'm interested in the older student that's gone back and stays and does it and feels that accomplishment.
Yes.
It's that sense of accomplishment, you know?
And we see stories like that quite a bit. We see stories of individuals that will come in and say, you know, I've been working for 20 years, 30 years at my job, and I like it, but it's not my passion. I don't love it. I want to do something that I'm passionate about, and I think I want to go back to school to pursue that. And that's when we sit down and we say, great, let us help you get there. And we can show them what we have to offer in our catalog, and we can walk them through this process so that they're not intimidated or overwhelmed. It's a beautiful thing. The ones that I love to interact with as well are, you know, the single parents that are looking to help out their families,
Yes.
or maybe it's the adults that are already retired and just want to be the example for their children or grandchildren. All wonderful reasons
What
to
a
go to school.
wonderful, of course. They can be a motivation for the next generations by doing that. Maybe they could even do homework at the same table.
of course.
Families that study together, right? Yeah.
Yes, families that study together stay
Stay
together.
together. But we'll also see that too. We just before we sat down, you were talking about how we'll see generations of
Yes, like a
families that
mother, a
graduate.
daughter, a
Yes.
grandmother, or,
Yeah.
you know, it's very true. I remember one student, I know we can't share names, she was an older student, she came back and she was a veteran. And the academic piece is important, but there's also the piece of getting involved in the community and in the college in general.
Yes.
And she became a part of the Veterans Resource Center, and she was able to actually go to DC and talk about different bills and things that support veterans. So it's all academic, but there's that other side of it that keeps you connected and says, all right, I know I have that calculus class, but I'm coming to campus and I'm staying longer because I'm now in this student group. And the student groups, they're not just for the younger population, that's for everyone that attends the college, and again,
That
another
socialization,
perspective.
that socialization angle too, that also helps to motivate in
Oh,
its own way
absolutely.
too.
It does, and you
know?
feel a little more comfortable because you're
Right.
giving back in more than one way,
Right.
more than just the classroom,
Right.
but you're actually affecting change in the community.
Our
So-
students become part of this incredible network of our institutions, and before you know it, they meet other alums and graduates of Middlesex, of Northern Essex, and there's an instant bond, an instant connection right there.
Yeah.
It's special.
Do you have an alumni group or an alumnus group that is so?
I'm sure we both do. Yep, an alumni association. Yeah, we definitely both do. So, and they're always
right.
looking and willing to reconnect with alumni and really have them come back and say, this is what Middlesex or Northern Essex did, and now I want to spread that around. So,
Do any of them ever speak at the graduation? Like an older student who comes back and gets a degree, do they ever speak at one of your graduations? That just popped into my head.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
yeah, they're
Right.
student speakers. Yep, at the
Student
graduation.
speakers, and also we'll oftentimes have graduates who have taken their degree and just made significant contributions to our community, whether it's through work, through philanthropy, through volunteer work. There's no doubt that that recognition after graduation still exists in a number of different ways.
Right. I'm so glad we're doing this. I'm so glad you made time to come today. So, and we're looking at this holistically: education, socialization, family, studying together, maybe learning together, maybe you might have a family in the same college. You might have you might have the grandmother and her child, her adult child, and a granddaughter in the same class. That's a possibility too.
A very real possibility.
Very real possibility.
And that makes certainly for interesting conversations around the holidays, because there's no doubt that the discussions don't end when class ends.
That's right.
They'll continue on, and,
very true.
and that has a tremendous value in and of itself. But whenever we see siblings, parents, grandparents, cousins that are enrolled at the same institution, we think that's a wonderful thing. It's very special.
It is special. It is special. It's the value. It's like a value added thing.
Well, and I think we consider ourselves a big family too.
Yeah,
When you think
yeah,
about
yeah,
the institution, I mean, we are a big family. You know everybody from different departments, and you know, let me bring you here or walk you there. It's
Right.
not just down the hall and around the corner, but you
These
know.
are the things that people often don't necessarily expect when they start off a college education.
Right.
But oftentimes it's the things that they value as much as what they learned in the classroom.
They kind of grow into it.
No
In
doubt.
a way.
Absolutely.
We're going to actually be winding down very shortly. Is there anything you think maybe we've not quite talked about that you want to make sure we get in there?
Well, I would say just once again to study what you're passionate about. There's never a bad reason to go to school, and education in and of itself is
Right.
always valuable.
Right.
So if there's any apprehension or nervousness, come talk to us, ask some questions, and we can help you figure out the path.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I had to add, I would say, you know, when you come on campus, suggest.
Oh.
Because if we don't hear, then we don't know always what we need to do with the community. I'm a big fan of getting feedback on things and hearing about someone's experience. So if someone did come in and it was too quick, or, you know, we have to hear that so we can make it right the next time. So
Okay.
feedback is always good no matter what.
So it's learning all the way around.
It is.
It
It
is
very
learning
much
all
is.
the way around.
For all, everyone involved.
It is,
That's
yes.
right, that's right. I want to thank you both for coming today, and I know how busy your schedules are in a college setting. But thank you very much, and thank you for sharing your knowledge. We have an audience out there, it's wide-ranging, and I'm sure we're reaching somebody today.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody heard how they can at least take that first step. All right, thank you.
It was
Take
a pleasure.
care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
For the Young at Heart is sponsored by Duville Life and Wellness Community, a commitment to care, a legacy of compassion. This is Duville.